Welcome back to another episode of War in Cali. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the rapper Jacka. The Jacka was born Dominique Newton on August 12, 1977. The Jacka grew up in Pittsburgh, California, after living in several places in the Bay Area early on. His parents were 14 and lived hard lives, with his mom was in the streets and his dad was doing stints in prison. At the early age of 9, he knew he wanted to be a rapper and began working on his craft. But being born into a broken home and growing up in the 80s, the Jacka would grow up hard seeing how the streets were. The Jacka began hustling on the streets at an early age. However, he also joined the Nation of Islam as a child, and while later serving time in prison on a robbery charge, he became a Sunni Muslim. He took the name Shahid Akbar. The Jacka would form friendships with people like Hustler and Rob Lowe. They would work on songs at Rob Lowe's house where they had access to professional equipment because Rob Lowe's dad worked in the music industry. They would be working on developing their skills. This would later lead up to them meeting one of the most poppin' street artists at the time in California, rapper Sebo from Sacramento. Sebo seen their potential and formed the group Mob Figures. That featured the Jacka, Hustler, FedEx, AP9, and Ryder J. Clyde in the group. In 1999, they released the album Sebo's Mob Figures on Sebo's record label, West Coast Records. The album became a local hit and featured artists like Yuckmouth, Spice One, and Sebo himself. But with Sebo facing legal issues and going to prison, the group would decide to break up and each artist would go solo. The Jacka's first solo release, The Jacka of the Mob Figures, came out in 2001. It sold over 30,000 units independently. Jacka sold these units himself in the Bay Area and shipping to stores across the country. Even though he had great support in the Bay Area, 60% of Jacka's sales came from outside of California. The Jacka alone in years would drop a few mixtapes and be featured in several artists' albums and mixtapes. But his biggest year up to that point came in 2005. The Jacka will be a part of 3 compilation albums, a solo mixtape called The Jacka the Mixtape, and an album called The Jack Artist, which was a local success, giving him the momentum he needed. Some of the biggest songs on his album was Never Blink and Barney More Crime. The album was released through his own record label, The Artist Records. From 2006 to 2008, the Jacka stayed on his grind, dropping and being a part in over 13 albums. His shining moments came in 2008, with 3 albums in the same year reaching the top hundreds of the charts. One of the albums was Drought Season, which was a collab album with Burner. It peaked at 25 on the Rap Albums chart. Also Mob Trial 3 with FedEx and AP9, who was also a part of Mob Figures with Jacka. The album peaked at 91 on the R&B and Hip Hop Albums chart. Jacka's next charting album was an album called The Street Album, which has some of the top songs from him in my opinion, and one of his biggest hits. Standout songs on the album was songs like With the Shit, Aspen, and one of his most known songs, All Over Me. 2009 was another big year for the Jacka. Him and Burner dropped another tape called Drought Season 2, which peaked at 66, and The Price of Money with 12 Gauge Shotty, which peaked at 88. He also did another solo album that year, which was another hit album for the Jacka, peaking at 93. This album also had one of my all-time favorite songs from the Jacka as the lead single, Glamorous Lifestyle. The album featured people like Jay Stalin, E40, Paul Wall, Devin the Dude, Freeway, Mitchie Slick, Mr. Fab, and many more. From 2010 to 2014, the Jacka would be a part in over 20 mixtapes, collab albums, and solo projects. 2 peaked in the top 100. The Jacka's last projects were his solo album What Happened to the World in 2014. In 2014 as well, Highway Robbery with Freeway, and Drought Season 3 with Burner in 2015. But that would be his last album alive. On February 2nd, 2015, the Jacka was shot and killed on Oakland, on 94th and MacArthur.
Shot and killed in Oakland tonight was a local rapper. Someone posted this video of the scene at 94th and MacArthur. Witnesses said about 8:15 tonight they heard gunshots. Police tell us the victim is 37-year-old Dominic Newton. He went by the stage name The Jacka.
The Jacka was only 37, and from what was speculated, the Jacka wasn't the intended target. His death is still unsolved. The Jacka, in my opinion, is one of the greatest artists to come out the Bay and deserves more mention with the greats in California. He was a skilled artist who had a credible work ethic. 5 years after his death, an album called Murder Weapon was released and will be his last album ever. R.I.P. to him. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.